Let's go now to the map to see where things are at this hour. Tom Basile, fill us in because there have been a lot of movements, particularly in the last few hours.
That's right. Thanks, Rita, and good morning to you. All right, let's go to the map to see where things are at this moment. Up here in the north, we've been discussing that long armored column that had been approaching Kyiv. That has now dispersed. Now, that can mean two things, that they are getting prepared to actually encircle the city for a direct assault. It could also be in response to the effect that the Ukrainians have had on those positions. We know that they have destroyed a number of tanks and other vehicles. Russian forces now only about 10 miles from the city of Kyiv. Down in the south here, we still have not seen a real press toward Odessa, which we had thought that we were going to see, again indicating that Putin's forces have needed to resupply and to reorganize in the south, though they are making additional progress here in Mariupol. To that end, the Kremlin announced plans yesterday to deploy foreign fighters, including up to 16,000 Syrian fighters to Ukraine to help. More evidence that Putin's having a tougher time than he thought taking this territory, and that Russian ground forces have underperformed. Now, while Russian forces appear to be stalemated in places like Kharkiv up here in the northeast, over the last 24 hours, we've seen the first major activity to push into the western part of the country. And if we could put up the larger map, we'd appreciate it. So these areas here, places like Lutsk, Ivano-Frankivsk, Russians bombing airfields and other targets in those cities. Now, this is significant because these areas to the west are likely the main part of the main resupply routes for the Ukrainian armed forces. They are also along key evacuation routes for those looking to flee the country. That number now is about 2.5 million people. If we can put up the refugee numbers. Okay, there you go. 2.5 million people, with more than 1.5 of them going to Poland. And we have reporters live in Poland. They'll be reporting on that as well. So, Rita, the conflict looks to be widening, and the more difficulty Russian ground troops have, the more air power will likely be used, and the more civilian targets will be hit to soften that Ukrainian resistance.
Yeah, amazing to see it on the map there, too. Tom, thank you very much. And it was great to see it all laid out. We appreciate it so much. And now to talk about all of this, what Tom was highlighting on the map so well for all of us here, retired Brigadier General Anthony Tata. He joins us now to discuss the latest. We were just looking, our Tom Basile was showing us on the map how widespread it is now. I have to get your take, first of all, General, because as I have seen that disbursement, we're talking about that 40-mile convoy, that 40-mile long just stream of tanks. It is now dispersed, and it is in the tree line, and it's in these areas. And according to many, many reports and our reporters on the ground, they are in basically range of the center of Kyiv. And some people are saying, okay, well, maybe it's a sign the Ukrainians are making headway. The opposite is they could be literally on the verge of about to do a major assault on the capital city. And I want to get your take, General.
Thanks, Rita. Bottom line is this is Russia tightening up their logistics. They're deploying their artillery into sheaths, so they'll be side by side to be able to better support the infantry and special forces advance that is bound to come if it hasn't already started. And so this is classic tactics, a very set piece movement. I don't make too much of the reporting that they're stalled or they're not making the progress they thought they would. I don't think anybody understands what's in Putin's head, and certainly it's dangerous to try to guess. And so what we do have is the facts on the ground, the very good reporting from Sarah and the rest of your team, and the excellent analysis of the map. One thing on that map is the Dnieper River that runs right through the middle of Ukraine is a major terrain feature. It's the fourth largest river in Europe. And when you see the forces to the west of that coming in on Kyiv, and then the forces to the east of that, there's river crossings that have to take place, there's logistics that need to be moved, and you want all of that set before you begin the very brutal, bloody house-to-house fighting that will be taking place here. I see nothing that indicates that Putin is going to be measured in anything that he's doing. And in fact, I think that he's being more bellicose, and there's some indication that he's trying to up-arm the Belarusians. And if he's doing that, that brings into play the Baltic states. I don't think that he stops here at Ukraine, speaking strategically now. I really do think that Putin sees weakness in NATO, sees a divided NATO, sees a divided United States. He's exploiting that. He has this vision, I believe, of reuniting the old Soviet Union, and this is the first step in that. And nothing so far has gotten in his way, and he's calling every single shot that there is. The response from the administration has been anemic, and this talk of a unified NATO, they can't even agree on economic sanctions or shutting off the oil. So words are one thing, and people are saying a lot of good words, but the reality on the ground is Ukraine's fending for themselves, and NATO is not as unified as we would like it to be.
And by the way, to that end, General, you know, the White House, and we hear that came all the way from the top from President Biden, killed the plan for the Polish jets, those are the old Soviet jets, the old MiG jets, to go to Ukraine. Do you think that was the right decision? The president said that he thought that that would basically be the start of World War III. And I have to ask you also strategically, based on what Tom Basile was just showing us, because we got so much breaking news coming in, he was showing us that the airfields to the west, closer to Poland, were hit by the Russians. Why do you think they did that? What's the message with that?
Well, I think Russia's trying to negate any ability to airland resupply, logistics. Airfields are, classic hubs for, even driving into and helicoptering out of. Putin's letting everybody know that they're zeroing in on those airfields. So if you come in there, we're going to know where you came from, and we're going to see it as a provocation, and we're going to use that as an excuse to go into Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania. You pick the country that he wants to, dabble in, and I do believe he's going to do a spoiling attack into one of our NATO nations, and then the Article 5 thing kicks in on the Polish MiGs. That's a tough call, 51 to 49% either way. The interpretation from Putin would be that that's certainly support from NATO, and then now NATO is embroiled in the conflict if they aren't already.
Yep, absolutely. So many layers to this, and we'll, of course, keep you posted, and you'll give us your great insight as always. Thank you so much, General. We appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.